All right, hello everyone, 6 o'clock. Welcome to the School Building Committee, April 3rd, 2025. We'll start with a roll call.
Manager Golden, Michael Vaughn, Michael Vaughn,
I think he's on the Zoom.
can the people on the Zoom hear me?
They're not moving their heads, so I'm guessing.
Oh, you know what? It might be muted. You need the other keyboard, Austin.
The little black one?
Yeah, that's for the screen. But you're not gonna be able to see it from. Can the people on the Zoom hear us? Yeah, okay.
Manager Golden, Michael Vaughn,
Here.
I heard it. In the other room? Yeah.
Fred Bahu, Superintendent Skinner, Richard Underwood, Michael Fiato, Connor Baldwin,
Present.
Mark Byrne, James Hall,
Here.
Counselor Chow, David Peasley, William Samaras, Senator Kennedy, John Leahy, Representative Elliott, Mary Ann Manzi, Jay Mason, Maria Sheehy,
Here.
Benjamin Opara, Erica Harvey,
Here.
John Haley, Paul St. Cyr, Representative Howard,
Here.
Kendrick Delorbe, Janica Lang. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Vote to accept communication, remote Zoom participation.
Second.
Ayes have it. A vote to accept minutes of the February 27th meeting. Seconded by Mr. Opara. Yeah. Next on the agenda is a vote to accept member Fred Bahu officially to the SBC. Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Votes?
I think we might need to do a roll call for this.
Roll call?
Manager Golden, Michael Vaughn,
Yes.
Fred Bahu, Superintendent Skinner, Richard Underwood, Michael Fiato, Connor Baldwin,
Yes.
Mark Byrne, James Hall,
Yes.
Counselor Chow, David Peasley, William Samaras, Senator Kennedy, John Leahy, Representative Elliott, Mary Ann Manzi, Jay Mason, Maria Sheehy,
Yes.
Benjamin Opara, Erica Harvey,
Yes.
John Haley, Paul St. Cyr, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Kendrick Delorbe, Janica Lang. Motion passes.
The ayes have it. Welcome to the School Building Committee, Mr. Bahu.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me. I'm here at the best time.
Now we'll kick it to Jim Dowd, the project manager.
Good evening. First, Ms. Sun Chung with Suffolk will go through the punch list.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I just want to give a brief update on the Phase 2 punch list. We are down to approximately 78 open items for Phase 2. Right now, the big push is for April vacation in a couple of weeks. We're gonna get back inside the school and close out as many of the 78 items that we have as open. 16 out of the 78 items are summer break work, which means it's in the gym, so we won't be able to get in until this summer once school is out. But right now, there's 78 open items, and we will try to get all of them closed out with the exception of the 16 that's scheduled for this summer. Now I'm going to turn over the Phase 3 update to Mr. Dowd.
Thank you. Back in February, the project team informed the SBC that we encountered a significant issue in the 1922 basement in that the slab in the basement had a void underneath it of approximately 2 to 4 inches, as well as, in some cases, the slab only being 2 inches thick. The result of the investigation revealed that issue went throughout the entire 1922 basement. And the engineers working for Perkins Eastman concluded that the solution was to remove the entire slab in the 1922. This includes the portions of the basement slab in the current Phase 3 area, as well as what will be encountered in Phase 4 in the south part of the 1922 basement floor. Subsequent to that, Perkins Eastman developed a design with the geotechnical and structural engineers in which it was concluded that 2 feet of the soil under the basement slab needs to be removed and replaced with structural fill. Needless to say, that is quite an extensive endeavor with the project set to finish Phase 3 in August of this year. That date became untenable. So we met with the project team, that being Suffolk, Perkins Eastman, and Skanska. We had extensive meetings with the high school administration, the superintendent's office, and the city manager's office. Went through numerous scenarios of how we can approach this and what is the safest manner for the students, the least intrusive to their education, what is also the most prudent as far as scheduling goes for the project. Through numerous meetings, I'd say we probably met 3-4 times with all those groups. We concluded with the following schedule. I don't think we're showing it there, but if you look at, I believe it's the 3rd page, the looking forward page in your handout. What was concluded was that the 1980s building, which is currently about 2/3 of it under construction for Phase 3, will be completed in August and turned over to the school to be occupied for the start of the 25-26 school year. The 1922 building portion that is under construction in the 1922 Phase 3 portion of the building, basement, auditorium, floors 1 through 3, will not be able to be occupied in August. That will be turned over in December, with those areas being occupied over Christmas break. At that point, which will be January 1st of 26, Phase 4 will start. Phase 4 will need to be extended because there's additional scope, which is quite significant in the basement of the 1922 building, which will extend the duration of Phase 4. That pushes Phase 4, which was supposed to start 2 days after the last day of school in June of '25 to January of '26. That 14-month schedule, which is going to now be greater than 14 months, pushes the finish of Phase 4 to spring of 2027. That means the overall project turnover date will be August of '27. Sometime in the spring, the Suffolk is still working with their scheduler on a very detailed schedule. They're getting the exact date. They're crunching the numbers. They have been for the last couple of weeks, working with subcontractors. That date will be sometime in the spring of '27. Moving in to the completed school in the spring of '27 is not feasible for an April break. There's just, at that point, we will be vacating the existing freshman academy, moving everyone into what is the new freshman academy, the 5-story building that's occupied, the new 5-story building that's occupied right now. That has upperclassmen in it. Everyone in that building then moves out of that building and will occupy the 1980s, the 22, and the 1892. Will cause far too much, just physically moving can't be done over a break, and the disruption to the school to turn them upside down like that mid-year is not feasible for the school operations. So the final move will take place in the summer of 2027, with the new school being turned over in 2027. The costs for the impact of this change, as well as the extension of the schedule, are currently being calculated. Part of it is getting a schedule complete, which will be done in the next week, then sending that out to subcontractors, pricing that. That is something we are all working through, and we expect to go to the city council mid-June with an update on the costs. Looking at the budget, which I'd been saying for the last probably 6 months was getting quite close, this will push us over budget. To what extent, we don't know, but it will put us over budget. Moving on to the next slides. This fall of '25 slide.
Excuse me, I got a question.
Hold on,
Sure. So it sounds like the 1980s building will be available for occupancy this upcoming summer. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then the 1922 building will not be able to be occupied until the end of this year?
Correct.
The end of this year?
Yes.
So we lose one half.
One half, the area that is currently under construction will be turned over for Christmas break. We'll work with the school to occupy what will be Phase 4, to get as many people out of that's feasible for operations into the new 1980s building. So that is a minimal move mid-year.
And the building that's going to be occupied December of 2025, which is the 1922 Phase 3, all 4 floors
Correct.
will be open. The basement, the first floor, the second floor, as well as the third
Correct.
floor. There will be no more delays.
Not that we know of now, no.
Okay, well, we pretty much have everything figured out, correct? The concrete slab, and we're digging down 2 feet,
Correct.
and then we're looking to fill it with
Structural fill.
structural. Now, I'm sure they built the building in 1922 with some thick concrete. Do we know?
They did not.
They did not. So this 1-inch, 2-inch concrete areas on the
Typical
floor.
slab is 4 inches or 6 inches. We are finding 2-inch thick slabs with the rebar is usually within the middle of the slab, is on the bottom of the slab exposed to the soil underneath, which is not correct construction. That's from 1922. We're finding that in numerous locations of the 1922 slab.
In your estimate, is that why you feel there may be flooding in that basement floor for the past number of years?
I defer to Perkins Eastman. Joe?
No, we don't believe that the flooding has influenced anything below the slab. We've asked that question to our geotechnical, and they don't believe that's the case.
Mr. Mayor Samaras, you had a question?
Just, now that you found the problem with the flooring and you're going to repair that, do you expect any problems created by repairing the floor? In other words, the side walls of the building, would that have any effect on the building itself? You know, I'm
We
looking at this
don't, we
as-
don't expect any wall or structural issues because of this issue. It's just the slab. Is that correct, Joe?
That's correct. The existing walls do not show any signs of cracking or being displacement. So we believe that the foundations that are supporting those walls, which are load-bearing, are on sufficient substrate.
All right, so it's a separate issue then, basically.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Delorbe, you have a question?
Thank you, Manager Machado. Mr. Dowd, you brought up a good point about the disruption to students and how it is a concern, and something I'm very concerned about. So I guess I have a few questions. So the 1980 section that will be coming online for the beginning part of the upcoming school year, how many classrooms do we expect to have open in that section of the building?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but all the 3 floors, on the first floor has the new nurses suite. It has the new culinary classes, and then there are labs and classrooms on the 3rd floor. I believe it's very similar to the original. The layout's a little different, but the number of classrooms is similar to what was there before.
And then just one more quick question is, I'm wondering if you've worked with the high school on sort of a phasing plan on how to physically move students over that time, because I think it still will be a task, and I think it will pose a challenge to students to still physically relocate, especially for our freshman students coming into the new building has been difficult for them navigating. So I imagine adding another task of having to navigate a newly open section halfway through the school year will present some challenge logistically and personnel-wise amongst our students. So I'm wondering, has a plan been developed? Have you worked with our high school operations on phasing our students?
We have started conversations on that. We have not finalized those, but we have had, as I said, extensive meetings with the superintendent's office as well as high school administration.
Okay, thank you.
And those will continue.
Mr. Underwood?
I'm just curious, wouldn't the geotechnical be a part of every project? And I know nobody in this room right here was part of the geotech firm that came in and did the cores and throughout the building, but I would have thought, and, not working on high rises, being, in construction for most of my life, that this would have been common. And I know early on in the project, before a lot of the people in this room were part of the project, we did extensive investigations with, I believe the company was Novick. And I'm just curious, how did we miss, who did I know maybe I have the company's wrong name, who did the geological investigations for the cores early on?
Why didn't they catch the floor?
The geotech investigation I'm talking about just recently had to do with finding a solution for the problem that we currently have. The geotechnical investigations previously were outside the building, and there was limited interior investigations. There were boring done, I believe, in that area. And when we've done some removal of slabs for the elevators, there had been no signs of what we're experiencing now.
Is that the same case with the 6 large cuts that we did in the cross corridors of the 1922 building? early on for the concrete that was going to support the steel for the HVAC units. I would have assumed that, we would have caught it at that point too. It would not have changed the outcome, but would have gave us more time to make plans. And then I guess my follow-up question to my own question is, have we started investigations in the part of the building, weekends, nights, or whatever, to find out if that situation is the same in the second half of the 1980s building? I'm sorry, 1922 building and Coben Hall?
Well, there's a couple of questions there, I think, Ricky.
Yeah.
So, first one, with regard to the removal of the slab for the foundations for the penthouse, I think you're referring to. I think we'd have to refer to Suffolk. We didn't get any information about that there was a problem, so I expected that there was not. With regard to future investigations, I believe we're planning on expecting that in the southern portion of the 1922 building because it was built at the same time.
Okay. I was, and again, and I'm not positive, but I was on site during those slab cuts, and I don't remember, and I was there because it was a big part of the project. It was the next step. I was there for a big part of that, and I don't remember those slabs dropping down. So I guess my next, are we doing investigations on that side of the building now to find out if that's in fact going to be?
Yes.
In the southern portion of the 1922 building.
And Coben Hall.
FBRA has already reviewed that, and my understanding is that they have concluded that there is the same condition in that location.
We're expecting.
In the 1922. The 1892 will be we're looking into investigations over April vacation, doing some cores there.
Okay.
Mr. Mason?
I just wanted to ask, I'm sure you've looked at this, but I am just curious. First of all, can you give us an idea of the square footage of the area that we're talking about? Just roughly, within 10,000. All right, so anyway, it doesn't necessarily matter. I'm just wondering, are there footings? There must be posts and piers and columns coming down in places, and they would be sitting on some type of, hopefully, a footing. What kind of observations have you been able to make about other supports? If the slab is thin, that would lead you to think that perhaps there may be some shortcuts taken with some of those footings, and those would be important to understand structurally.
I think the footings that you're referring to would be supporting a column, and there's nothing that suggests from what the column is supporting that there's any movement. Similar to the bearing walls, there's no visible signs of distress in the structure. So you would see some form of indication that there's a problem with those structural components, and we're not seeing anything.
So there's no deflection seen, so there's no anticipation of a problem?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I would also note that the floor of the 1922 building, there were no cracks in that, there was no deflection in that, the walls that were resting on that were not cracked or settled. There was no indication that this condition existed underneath.
Mr. O'Para?
Well, with the no indication of existing problems, my take is that you are giving this assessment on visually. Is there a way we can get a geotech guys to really make sure that this kind of thing wouldn't affect the piers, or that there wouldn't be surprises down the road? Because just looking at the slabs, there was no settlement at all. But suddenly we saw that the subterranean had settled. So I was wondering, is there no way we can get a professional geotech group to really find out what is going on with the pier section and that is carrying the columns?
We asked that question. We thought that we may be able to have the slab scanned to give us some indication. And the information we got back from the companies who do the scanning felt as if it would be inconclusive. So we did explore that. We were hoping we could do that, but they didn't feel as if they could give us definitive information.
Thank you. How I was wondering how much of this could have been because of disturbances of demolitions and, during the project itself, outside of the project. How much of that settlement underneath these slabs could have been as a result of disturbances?
Mr. Delorbe?
Just one quick question. Slab subsidence like this, how much of a danger does this pose to buildings? Because, my question is, if we weren't engaged in this construction project and we found out that the slab underneath the occupied building was sinking like this, would this have taken the building offline? How much of a danger would this pose to an occupied building?
I think the significant thing here is that we're talking about the floor in the basement, not the structure of the building. There's no indication that the structure, the columns supporting or the structural walls have settled in any way. It's just this floor that had a void underneath it.
If there's no more questions, we'll move on to progress. Mr. Dowd?
Sorry. Going through the phasing plan, starting in January of '26. This is the 1892 in the southern portion of the 1922 that will be offline. That's in maroon for construction of Phase 4 that will run from January 1st, the upcoming January 1st of '26 through spring of '27. And then the completed building, which will be occupied for the fall of '27, is the following slide. Slide after that, which we showed, this is the slab, when the slab was being cut. If you can see, if it's sitting on the soil the way it's supposed to, when you cut this, when you cut the slab, it stays where it's supposed to. As you can see in that picture, it dropped about an inch or two, and that was into the void that was underneath it. If you go to the next photo, same condition. You can see that they put the 2x4s there, I think, just so that they could running equipment to get over the edge, but it's dropped down about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and that's because of the void that was under the slab. Moving on to the rest of the Phase 3 presentation, I'll go back to Ms. Sancho.
Okay, so in the next couple of
Chairman?
photos is just progress. Oh,
I'm sorry. Senator Kennedy?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. I think at the last meeting, it was indicated that we probably could get a cost estimate for this meeting, and maybe that was an unrealistic expectation. Will there be a pretty solid cost estimate in June, and is that likely to be at the beginning of June or the end of June?
They're working out the schedule with the subs. We're shooting for June,
Probably on the later side.
the later end of June for a full budget moving forward.
So it'll be the end of the fiscal year is when you expect to have it?
Yes,
And
that's correct.
And that'll be a pretty reliable number?
Yeah, all the scheduling will be done with the subs, and we'll have a pretty solid idea on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, continuing with the presentation, just on the next couple of photos, it's just the update for Phase 3. So this photo right here is just the Building A of the 1922 buildings on the upper floors. We have drywall installed. The next photo is just Building C. This is where the new skylight is installed with the light wall. The next photo is also Building C, which is a 1980s building with just all of the casework that has been installed as well. So finishes are definitely going in, tiles going in the corridors, in the bathroom as well. And then the last photo is just the North Bridge. So we recently poured a slab on the North Bridge earlier in the month. And now we're on the curtain wall, and right now they're framing for curtain wall. And then part 4 is just a MWBE update. Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
So I had asked before, and I guess there's no change. We're not really I'm not happy with the finishes. I don't know why we're using construction grade eggshell paint on all the walls. I mean, by the time you guys leave, we're gonna have to start repainting again. So was there any discussion on trying to upgrade the paint? It's not, I mean, the whole freshman, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the hallways, it looks like the building's been there for 10 years, so any thoughts on that?
Is that a Perkins easement question?
Rob, Ms. Greenberg, I believe you spoke with Chairman Williams?
I did, and I'm trying to remember that conversation because I've had a bunch. Sorry, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I'm trying to remember exactly how they
Yeah.
said it, but.
Well, it's pretty simple. They're giving you a paint that's just construction grade, so it's not gonna hold up.
I guess I don't know what it means by construction grade. so
Well, it's just a cheaper paint. I don't know why we didn't spec out a durable paint for a project like this.
We believe it is a school durable paint.
Well, I've been
That
doing this
meets
for
our
40
VOCs.
years, and I know what it is, and I'm not gonna argue, but I'm just saying, it's not a good grade paint for a project like this. I just don't understand why we're using it, so. If we could stop using it and at least finish half the project with a better paint, that would be better for the city, but, so that's just my thoughts on that.
Mr. Mason.
Just a follow-up to John's question. I wonder if it would make sense for the spec to be published to the building committee to see, exactly what was spec so we could all understand what we're talking about.
Superintendent Skinner.
Thank you. I'm interested in the North Bridge because we really need that, and it looks like that will be completed by the start of next school year. Will it be usable, given that the 1922 building is going to be working in there?
It will be completed. It will not be usable because it would feed students right into the construction zone. In December, when we do the transition, the South Bridge will actually be taken offline because that feeds into Phase 4 that will be under construction for the second half of next year and the entirety of the following year. So we will the South Bridge will end up being taken offline for a year and a half, when the North Bridge goes active over Christmas break of this upcoming year.
So both bridges being usable won't be until the project is turned over in 27?
That is correct.
Excuse me, point of clarification. Also, the Freshman Academy building, the existing Freshman Academy building, will that not be available until the full project is finished in 27 as well?
That is correct. So that will be online for an extra year.
Do you want to continue?
All right, moving on to the MWBE update. The minority workforce is currently at 26.8%. That equates to 963 workers and approximately 200,000 hours. We are exceeding that project goal. Moving on to the female workforce, we're currently at 5%. That actually went up a little bit. We were, I believe, 4.8% last month. So that's about 138 female workers and 37,000 hours. We are still under the project goal, but we're slowly increasing. And then just moving on to the local residents, we are at 9.42%, 149 workers, about 70,000 hours.
Any questions on the workforce update? Seeing none? Mr. Dowd?
Moving on to the budget. The budget summary. We've received $178.3 million in reimbursement from the MSBA to date. As I always speak to, the number we always keep an eye on is the amount of change orders and the contingency remaining. The 32 change orders to date have spent $13.8 million of the $21.2 million. That leaves $7.3 million in contingency remaining. With all of the current cost events we have that have been submitted by Suffolk, as well as issues that have been identified, not including the one at hand here with the basement, that's other items. We have forecasted $7.2 million in current potential costs to be incurred, and that does not include the issue at hand, the schedule extension, the costs for the basement. So that leaves us forecasted with approximately $68,000, which is why we're saying that the project is going to go over budget, and those are the numbers we are calculating for June, the extent to which it will go over budget.
Representative Elliott has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following along those lines, we've exhausted pretty much the construction management contingency at this point. What percentage of the project would you say we have completed to this point? Excuse me, to this point, and
I believe we're 72% complete is what we've identified in the MSBA reports.
so what expectation do you have for the remaining 38% that,
I believe
28%, excuse me.
It's foreseeable that we would be on the change order pace that we are currently on. We are currently calculating those numbers. Again, we'll be going into in phase 4, the southern portion of the 1922 building, as well as the 1892 building. It's foreseeable that our change order pace will remain about the same.
So what will that bottom line figure be for the remaining?
We're still calculating that. We will be back in June with that number.
Look, I understand it's hard to predict. However, we're also going to the parts of this project where it was anticipated the unforeseen expenses may be greater, correct?
Correct. And that has been exceeded.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mason?
Thank you. I just wanted to compare, because we, as a committee, received a document, change order log, MSBA change order log, and it carried the number of $10,294,966 of change order. That is not correct. The real number is $13,886,455.
That change order log, I believe, was through change order 29 off the top of my head, 28 or 29. That was submitted to the MSBA back in December. We submit to them quarterly. We just submitted the latest to them. Kevin, we sent that on Monday. But this is through change order 32, the 13.2 is up.
And the previous change order was through 28. So we had 29, 30, 31 in this last submittal, from 10 to 13.
I do.
So, you know, and I apologize, most of these meetings I'm fairly quiet because most of the things that we're going through, we go over at our weekly meetings. But just recently, we've been pulled in, myself and Mr. St. Cyr has been pulled in to the city council to answer what we're doing to track the problems in the school and how we're holding how we intend to hold the contractors responsible for it. And now, at this point, we're out of contingency money, or they're, you know, just about out of contingency money, and for surely going over this project. So, you know, how do we handle the lack of, what I call the lack of investigations that is now costing us tons of money? Again, I think, you know, the fact that we didn't know about that slab and it's costing all this money, to me, should have been fundamental in a project this big. We found out later that we had no plans to do any water mitigation along this canal side, which I've talked about before, which we are doing now, but it's an added cost. That, again, to me, as a layman, you know, with minimal construction experience, that should have been fundamental in a project this big.
That was included. We had an allowance of, I believe, $455,000 for water mitigation along the foundation. The extent to which that needed to be excavated to determine what needed to be done, we concluded at the bidding process that excavation needed to be done during the project, and we set aside $455,000 for that water mitigation along the western foundation of the 1922 and 1892 building.
And that was part of the original design?
Yes.
It was, okay,
Yep.
because when we had water in the chorus room, and I was asking if we could do that part of the waterproofing then instead of later, everyone was like, well, that wasn't part of the project. So, again, that's the first I heard that there was already money set aside for water mitigation, waterproofing on that side, so that makes me happy. But now we're also finding out that, which again, you would think this would have been found out during the initial investigation, that we have at least 2 water lines leaving the 1922 building from roof drains that are leading directly into the canal with no backflow preventers on it. And I'm sure that's going to be an added cost now, too. These things should have been found out early on so we knew what to do. Jim, you look like that's news to you.
I think everyone on this team is unaware that the rain leaders run into
Well, that's even more disturbing. When we did the investigation, the walkthrough of the 1922, which you were part of a couple weeks ago, right after that, they did some simple investigation that only took a couple of days and found out that we have lines that are leaving the building and dumping directly into the canal. And my first question, I think I posed it to you, if there was any concern now that we would have backflow concerns during high water events in the canal. And, you know, I guess that's still up in the air on whether that happens.
We will speak with the civil engineer. They're the ones that did the investigation on that.
Right. And then, you know, I'm going to go back up again to the punch list, you know, and I'm sorry, I should have brought this up before. I got an email saying that the repairs were done to the Mondo floors, the patches were done, and they were, but they don't look good. They certainly don't look like what we paid for. I'm very concerned of what they're going to look like in a few years from now. And they didn't repair the other side of the gym. They only repaired the side of the gym that had holes in it and left the opposite side that clearly has marks in it that will rip soon.
That was just an incremental process of going through the bleachers. We wanted to patch a few of the places to see what the impact of the fixes that were done to the bleachers over, I believe, January. And then that was not intended to be a complete repair of the Mondo. So that we'll be going back to that.
Okay, because I think we need to be made whole on all these things that they're making repairs to that aren't, in the words I said to the school, what we paid for. I'm not happy with the front doors. I'm not happy with the repair that was done to it recently. I'm not happy with the finished product, and I think there's a lot of that goes around. And I honestly think there needs to be more attention of people walking around and actually looking at the quality and the finished work, other than myself.
There has been an extensive punch list that is maintained by Perkins Eastman and Suffolk, as well as Skanska, and that will continue to be the case.
Mayor Samaras, you have a question?
I have to agree with what has just been said. My concern is when this project was talked about, and we're talking about new buildings, reconstruction of older buildings and what have you, that there was going to be a complete examination of the 22 building and the 1800 building to make sure that, costs, we would understand what the costs are. And all of a sudden, we're told one of the biggest parts of the project, the flooring of the entire 22 building, is not correct. That doesn't go well with me. In other words, I've talked with many of the people on this group here. I've talked with many people in the city of Lowell who've looked at this construction project. And the one thing we wanted to make sure of when we were keeping the high school downtown to meet the needs of our students, we were going to have some reconstruction and new buildings. And we're very pleased with what we've seen. And we're pleased with a lot of things that have happened. But the idea about the floor not being recognized as a serious problem, as serious as it is, really, I just can't accept it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. And the issue is that you're going to be negotiating, and it's going to have more costs. It's going to add to the cost of this building, or these buildings. I'm babbling here at this point because I almost don't know where to go in direction. I'm pleased with what we have. I'm pleased that the city of Lowell has made such a commitment to build such a school. And then we have the administration and students that really want to make it work and have been working very hard at this. And all of a sudden, at the end, we're coming into a point where a major aspect, a major problem was not identified. And it's identified now. The issue of whether it was, and then somebody said that the flooring it's not any reason why flooding has occurred. There are many reasons why we have flooding in buildings and things like that. But we're at a point where some decisions are going to have to be made. There's going to be a lot of people angry, and they're going to be angry at us, saying, how come you didn't know? Why didn't you know? How much is this going to cost us? Is there anything else? So I would hope, the one thing is, when this final report's made, that it is a complete report and that common sense has taken place and every aspect of what needs to be done has been taken. The city has worked too hard to fight for this project. And the people who work in the buildings, they're making the greatest sacrifice. Students are making quite a sacrifice. And the promise is that someday we'll have something that's really a showpiece. But the showpiece has some very jagged edges, and I'm concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Kennedy?
Yeah, could I ask one more question to Mr. Dowd? Just to get a clarification for myself and maybe for some other members of the committee. Regarding the contingency, if we take the extra cost that we're going to have to incur for the basement of the 1922 building off the table, are you saying that we then have exhausted all the contingency fund at this point?
Even if this was not encountered, looking at the numbers, it's foreseeable that we would have exceeded the budget.
Okay. And do you know how much is left? If you were to prorate it out to the end of the project, the end of the high school being built, how much more in contingency do you think we would need? Once again, ignoring the extra cost for the basement.
We are working on that number and plan to have a number for additional contingency for the June presentation to the city council.
I understand that it might take some time to come up with a number in June for the basement, but I would think it would probably be rather easy math to be able to project or estimate how much more in contingencies we're likely to have given the history of the project to date. Is that not correct?
That is correct. I have not done that. We have not done that. We will, in collaboration with all the other numbers, we will put all of those numbers together for June. We don't have a forecast at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
May I offer an answer as a former math teacher? If the contingency was $20 million and we're through 70% of the project, the remaining, at that pace, we will need another $8.5 million at that pace for contingency.
Thank you.
Skanska should have Superintendent Skinner, I think.
Mr. Dowd, you want to continue? Next steps?
All right. Next steps we are working on the basement of the 1922 slab. Suffolk started removing that last Thursday night. They're doing further analysis of that. Geotech will be out on Tuesday, I believe, for further analysis of how that is proceeding. In the 1980s building, everything is proceeding for the August turnover of that building. There are finishes going in on there. Suffolk will continue with finishes on the third floor, work their way down to the second floor, and the first floor is also making great progress. And we will be back for I believe the next. Do we need to plan the next SBC meeting, Mr. Machado?
Yes, we should schedule that.
I have, this is John Haley. I have one question. When the design was being done, was there a report that was done on the 1922 building of what was investigated and what destructive testing might have been done during the design phase to capture any and all of these items that are now being found?
Mr. Drons?
Yes, there was investigations that were done. That was part of the work that was done during the study phase and submitted to MSBA. I think what we're running into now is work that you couldn't have done during that period of time. During that phase, there has been ongoing work once the CM was involved, where further destructive investigation took place because they had the manpower and skill and to not only do the destructive testing, but then to patch back. So that has been done.
Is that that original report that was done on any of the testing prior to the CM coming on board, is that available for the committee to look at?
I believe it is.
Okay. And then I guess a follow-up question to that, you were saying that, that destructive testing couldn't be done during the design phase. I mean, that's a pretty standard process that if you know you're gonna tear down a wall or what have you as part of a renovation, you go in, you cut a hole and you just patch it, even if it's half-ass, because you know you're taking down that wall, or I mean, all the roofs that the city repairs are replaced, they always cut the whole roof all the way down to the deck to make sure they know what's there, and then they patch it because they know they're coming back to replace it. So I would definitely disagree knowing that all the demo you would have done that's being done in the 1922 building, that any of that destructive testing could have been done. So
John, that testing did take place once Suffolk was on board, which they were brought on board as a construction manager during the design process. I think Joe was speaking to the earlier design phases with the MSBA before Suffolk was brought on board, but there was extensive destructive testing done with Suffolk with the pre-con funds we had for Suffolk.
And did they do a report on what they found when they did all that testing? Whether it be for asbestos, is that summarized anywhere, I guess I'm asking? Or is it all over the
I believe
place?
it's in all those preliminary MSBA reports that were submitted to the MSBA. So we can track those down. Those are all readily available.
All right, thank you.
Leave this item open for new business. Anybody with new business? Mr. Mason?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up. I believe that the solar panels have been at least purchased, if not delivered. Can anybody tell me the status of the solar component of the project? And I know it's not a part of your official project, but since you're there in the building, can you tell us a little bit about what might be going on with that?
There's a crane scheduled for this Saturday. They're going to be shutting down Father Morissette Boulevard, I believe, first thing in the morning, and picking all the panels onto the new Freshman Academy roof. And they will be then moving the crane over to the gymnasium and picking all of those panels, which are already stored behind the gymnasium, and putting them on the roof for installation, is my understanding of how that is proceeding. And we have been coordinating with them.
Mr. Mason has asked that question every meeting. Anybody else have anything on new business? Vote to adjourn? All right. Thank you, everybody.
You happy?